Am I mute now? You gotta be kidding me. Since you started we have heard nothing. Okay, what about now? Because I was reading, I scrolled up. Oh man, jeez. Okay, so I'm glad that's sorted. So I scrolled up for the other comments at the top before I got here. So my bad. Okay, now it's fine. I see Tamara says sound is fine. And thing says L is fine. Okay, so thank you very much. Danke. Should we start afresh? Don't worry. I was saying that there was issues that I could not get through to thingy, and it's one of these things that you see it cuts off the thing, the audio when I'm not even aware. On my side it plays, but I could not see that it was muted down at the bottom. So it's fine. Let's just get straight to the video. Okay, so glad to see you guys. Jackie, how you doing? Oh man, now we are now it's official. Now we are officially live. I mean, we are not going back. Good now we can hear you. Thank you, Osmisi. All right, so this video that I'm talking about of this pastor who's doing weird things. I know I kept commenting about other things that you guys were saying, but we have passed that far. So let me show you this weird video which just sends chills to say this is what people consider prophecy. But first, let me pull the call in link. All right. So let me pin that comment there. So let me pull up the message that that we're going to share in here. Very, very weird fella. I don't know what he was thinking when he was saying these things, but this is not a new thing. It's an old thing. It's been there before. It's just that now we might be talking about it because now we are now online now. Okay, now we are online, so when it happens we are very quick and alert. So this guy is supposedly prophesying and he starts doing this weird thing. Ask Kanya, how you doing? Good to see you, dear. And so let me pin this comment. Let me pin this comment. Pin the message. Okay. So do tell me, is the call-in link pinned over there? Okay. I can't see it on my side, but so that's the call-in link, ne? All right. Back to my soundtrack. All right. So this guy starts supposedly doing the professor, and it gets very weird very quickly. It gets very weird very quickly. And so let me minimize it so I can see it here. So Makhado posted this particular post actually. And so as you can see there, let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so he posted this, and the idea of the theme of the title that you're seeing in the video, it's basically what Makhado was actually asking about. Okay, and so this guy's prophecy, prophetic, yeah, this is what we're gonna call it. This is what we're gonna call it. This has nothing to do with prophecy at all. Zero. A lot of guys used to do this. They don't do it nowadays. Back in 2014 and so forth, Hubert used to do this stuff, and Makandiwa, I think also Makandiwa used to do this stuff. So let's hear the message. Please do alert me if you cannot hear it. I'm gonna keep eyes on the comments over there. All right. Can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound? Before I continue with that. Too much. Good evening, everybody. Says Nolutando. Nolutando, how you doing? It is pinned, yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you. Thanks, Osmesi. Thanks. Okay, so you cannot hear the sound. No sound, my leader. Okay. Thank you, Church Talk. Thanks, okay, I'm gonna remove it. Stop sharing, and then I think it gives me a message. I must have skipped it. Oh, Chrome, my bad. There is a thing that actually says it's a Chrome page. Yes, share that with audio tab. All right, is it back up? Yes, it is. Okay, I'm gonna play it again. So do alert me if you can hear the sound. All right, how about now? We are finally. Yes, Jenny, we are here. Now can you hear it?
Is it the baby? Is the father from all the way from Bochum? Yeah.
Okay, so this is happening. What is it? Bochum. Did I forget where Bochum is? Jesus. Okay, I think that's Mahamaskran. When you're going towards Limpopo. Okay, you can hear it now. Ne? Awesome. There is now sound. Okay. Asmesi confirms sound, and the church talk also confirms sound. Evelyn also confirms sound. Danki kya leboga. Okay, so this is a Limpopian prophet. Yeah, I guess he's new to it. So he's reviving all these old trends and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna pull this down a little, and then let's hear this supposed prophecy. He's speaking in English. There's a translator, so I won't have to translate too much there.
He's from Bochum again.
Huh?
Am I? Then I've got this question for you. Because now I'm a prophet. And I see things beyond measure. You are saying the father of the child is the one from Bochum.
If you're a prophet, you won't have to tell us that. You know? There's no calling that needs to testify of itself. Even Jesus, when he spoke about things, he didn't have to testify of himself.
But my question to you is, have you been seeing the father of the child alone, or you were seeing somebody else? Talk to me, Kapila. I want to finish. I'm not here to embarrass anybody, because I am here and I'm here. People to show you the truth. I see things. Father, you never listen from the great professor. My father.
True, Father. I saw someone.
You were seeing somebody.
Yeah.
And you had intimacy with the guy.
Okay. So the lady, who is his daughter, spiritual daughter. She was supposedly, she was busy going in the corner. She was busy tiptoeing. She was tiptoeing, playing hide behind the bucket. So while the spiritual daughter was busy playing hide behind the bucket there, the prophet is now saying that he's saying that you guys got into some serious aspects of the relationship.
And the guy that you slept with, and I saw 2 rounds. Let me put it that
way. So God showed him that there was 2 rounds involved. Guys, God revealed to this guy that when these people were doing their intimacy stuff in the cheating arenas, they were, okay, God. Look at these ones. They're saying hallelujah. They're even lifting up their hands.
You are too much, Papa. I saw 2 rounds. And the other one, the second one, was not even ended. It did not even finish. But when I saw this, I saw you having intimacy with the father, with the man that you were saying is the father of the child from Bochum. But after all of them, you were having intimacy with them, flesh to flesh. Can I prophesy? Amen.
How is that prophecy? How is that prophecy? The video is on Makhado's Facebook page, né? So you can see it over there. How is that even prophecy? So beamed, God beamed this information to the prophet, and he was made to see. Did he say he saw it? No. Or did he say God showed him this? Because he says he sees things in measure.
But my question to you is, have you been seeing the father of the child alone?
No.
Here to embarrass anybody. Because I am here and I'm
What
here.
people you show it through prophet?
I see this.
Father, you never
So he saw it prophetically. Okay? So he saw.
listen from the guy prophesy.
My father.
It's true, Father. I saw someone.
You were seeing somebody.
Yeah.
And you had intimacy with the guy.
This is what he saw. Now, guys, let's bear in mind, this is what he saw through prophecy. So, when you are seeing, okay, it's God revealing it to you. So, God showed you pornography. What is wrong with these people? Something is wrong with these guys. Something is just so wrong with these guys. The first thing, like when you are thinking of a holy God, the first thing he could think of is to say, God showed him this. God showed you fornication happening. God.
The guy that you slept with. And I saw 2 rounds.
He saw it. He saw 2. He saw. Uyiboni. This is prophecy.
Let me put it that way. Can I prophesy here?
And then all these blind Bartimaeus, the children of hell, they start lifting up their hands. Hallelujah. The prophet has revealed. Wait, you're saying God showed a prophet people not dressed, and he showed him the round. Bazalwane, no. Something is wrong with you if you think God was in the presence of showing someone what this guy is describing. This is no different to the prophecy that the claim of Bushiri. Remember, Bushiri claimed that he was taken to heaven. And when he says when he got to heaven, he was shown TV screens in heaven. And these TV screens in heaven were showing all the sins and everything that is happening on the earth. So you are saying that in heaven, they are displaying all the vile and wickedness. It really tells us how you think about God. Who birthed these people? Who are they? Whose children are these people? I find it very weird that a person comfortably speaking about God speaks like that. I find it very weird. Maybe other people can accept that. But for me, I find it very weird. You are saying that God, through prophet, because remember, he's not saying he had it. No, he says he saw it through prophecy. Yeah. Bazalwane, that's where we are right now. That's where we are. God beamed information of pornography to a prophet. Why would God show you? Remember, when you are tempted, do not say that it is God who. So, how can God therefore be directly showing you? He wasn't told the information, he saw it. Yo, Jesus. I felt like I ran out of power. I ran out of power on that one. Hey, I ran out of power. And when I saw that video, I was like, okay, you see, this is why you need a line of definition. There is no gift that is greater than the other ones. But then, bo propheto, they like to claim that their gift is like over all of this other gifts. Literally, he's saying God showed him sin. God showed him vile and wickedness. And he beamed information. Yo, God. Yo. I think he says, why nkare ke mapedi wa show wa oh, why nkare ke mopedi wa gesho na? Yeah, I know. He's your WhatsApp group leadership. he's your WhatsApp group. Hi. This one he needs to revisit his views on God. You see, like theology helps you to define God in a way that it's not possible for me to even think God would show me that. Hey. Messi says, this prophet, he's still hungry. Yeah, he has not learned yet. So he's still kind of like trying to catch the ropes. He's trying to catch up with the others. You know, other people are already moving 260 degrees per second. So he's trying to catch up. The gifts are for edification. Even if you read in, what is it, Corinthians and Ephesians, where he talks about this subject about the gifts that people get, it's for edification. How does pornography edify? And how does God showing you that you have the wrong God? That's what he tells you. You have the wrong God. And no, we're not going to rebuke that, that no, God cannot do that. No, your God can do that, not the God of the Bible. I think sometimes we are having the wrong conversation. We need to make it clear. No, is it, my brother? Your God can beam pornography to your eye, not the God of the Bible. Jenny, you're laughing. The prophet, they have gone wild, these people. Because they don't have limits. They don't have like boundaries to say, this is where we will not go. So they keep extending. Kenny says, I wonder how that information would have been, would have led to her salvation or anyone's salvation. Exactly. All it does is make you scared that the prophet is going to see your sin. It doesn't really say anything about. All it does is you are now scared. Maybe Nigeria something. Even me, maybe I was there in the corner. I'm going to be called out for corner business. It's not you accountable to God. It's you now accountable to Provovo, your spiritual daddy. The gift, he might legit have the gift, yeah, but the gift is now being in benefit to the devil. This is evil. You can actually see that this was staged, and I would wonder, and they're doing, there's just too many things that I think there's so much that stops what I would think of God. Like that thought alone, that there are things that it would never come out of my mouth because of how I think about God. Like if you told me about your salvation with fear and trembling, it's that journey aspect of my salvation that I'm in response to. And in that response to it, I'm consciously aware of who I'm talking about. You see, God is seen in two areas. He's seen in judgment, and he is seen in his portrayal of love. In the Old Testament, the wrath of God is shown, but it's not in its fullness. That's why in Revelation, you hear about God's anger poured out. You hear of the fullness of God's anger poured out. But then you see that also on the cross, is that God displays the arm of of his judgment, both on Christ through the hand of man, but also through his judgment when he sits on the cross. You see, when Jesus is on the cross, it doesn't look like he's doing anything. That's a subject of another day. Like when Jesus is right on the cross, he's just there. It doesn't look like he's doing anything. But he's going through a punishment from a spiritual aspect, almost like a service of death, right on that cross. So you see, that view that I have of him, it informs my position on salvation. He was there looking like he wasn't doing anything. The same way I am sitting here looking like my salvation is not meaning anything. In my stillness, I am rested in Christ. Happy Shabbat for everybody. Okay? And so in that position, so the view of salvation that I have is that picture when he was on the cross. The idea of me being saved comes from that position when he was on the cross. It doesn't come because a lot of people try to derive the meaning of their salvation when he is in the grave. That's where they believe, we go through this purging. That's where you make a mistake because you now attach sanctification to salvation, which is not the case. If you go to the grave, you're only going to now attach sanctification to salvation, which is not the case. Your salvation was obtained right when he was on the cross, right at the top of the cross. The beating that he goes through is not what gets you your salvation. No, that was the wrath of man. So he went through two areas of wrath, the wrath of man and the wrath of God. And the wrath of God takes place on the cross. The wrath of man is the beating, is the humiliation, is the shaming, it's whatnot. And guess what? The same thing we experience in this life. We are humiliated by people. We are shamed by people. We are put out in the worst form that we could be in by people. That's that process. You do something wrong, I call you out publicly. So you're going through that process. It's what you decide to do with that process that determines what you saw on that cross. Is that humiliation aspect, the aspect that the forgiveness aspect from humans and stuff. And then you have Pilate wash his hands. That is done. So the innocence is not seen until the ending of the trial. Okay? The trial ends, he enters into the wrath of God. Except a person goes through that process of seeing that aspect. You always hear people say, they catch revelation. Catch revelation about salvation first. I catch all this revelation. I catch revelation about anointing. Rather relax. Catch revelation about salvation first. Because that one, it will humble the life out of you. If you could talk about if you were to talk about the groanings of the spirit, when the Bible talks about the groanings of the spirit, it says creation yearns for the rise of the sons of God. You see, you can literally translate that in the message of the cross. So when the Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, is that through the cross, I see the wrath of God. Through the cross, I see the wrath of God that I've been exempt from. So someone went through it so that I don't go through it. So this is why I say, Bazalwani, they are not subject to that form of judgment. And it's because if you think you are still subject to that judgment, it's because you don't understand the cross. The cross was your death. And so why is it that the writer of Psalms, okay? I want us to talk about how we see God. That's where we are going on this subject, okay? Which will bring into perspective the view that you now see the apostles capable of portraying. And we'll then talk about the dying to self part, okay, in that subject. You see, he can't see that. You see this guy? He can't see that. He's not capable of it. If you are not clear who we are talking about, we're talking about this guy here who claims that God beamed an image of pornography to his face in the name of supposed prophecy. No, Chief, you didn't see nothing new from God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. You saw something from your God. Your God. Your God is capable of doing that. And that God could be self. That God could be anything. But you see, I can never pin any nonsense like this on God because of that view of wrath from the cross that takes me all the way to the grave and it brings us to the resurrection. Now, let's go back to that view of the cross, right? The view of the cross. Notice that, I'll give you another example. If you look at Peter, when Peter meets Jesus and he's fishing, he's working. Man them is going about his life and Jesus is there. He does a miracle. After he does the miracle, then Peter turns, he looks at Jesus and he says, away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man. Now we are not told about what exactly influences this position that he sees. He sees the purity of the Messiah, but in that purity that he sees, it convicts him of his sinfulness. All Jesus did was a miracle. It's that Peter saw not only Messiah, Peter saw the creator of the heavens and the earth, because he knew it was not possible for the fish to have just appeared out of nowhere after how hard, because remember, this man was an expert in fishing and he was not capable of bringing any results through the work. So he knew, I must be standing next to the creator here who could call all these fish straight. So you see, when he goes through the testimony of being told to go and fetch a coin out of the mouth, he already has seen the impossible. He's not in doubt mode. He's seen that aspect. The glory aspect. He's seen the glory, basically. That's what I'm trying to paint today. So that's what Peter sees there. Now let's go. So Peter sees God as Jesus does the miracle. Now go to other people. Go to the conviction of the testimony. Okay, there are people that are born again from testimonies. Fine. If you go to Nathaniel and Philip, you go to Matthew. Matthew, as a matter of fact, Matthew almost sees the same thing. He doesn't see a miracle. Matthew doesn't see a miracle. All he sees is Jesus standing before him, calling him. We don't know what he saw. I don't know how handsome Jesus was. I don't know what he saw, but when he saw him, the conviction came. So you see, if you study the way the disciples convert, you literally see their view was influenced, which is why I'm pointing at this guy. How he sees God is scary. Zacchaeus has heard about the Messiah, right? We're dealing with perspective here. Zacchaeus has heard about the Messiah. He wants to see him. He's the richest man and he cannot even get people to respect him enough when it comes to the Messiah. So he says, you know what? I must be as the lowliest man right now. I better climb this tree if I'm going to see him. And it's that view that gets him up at the top and he sees him. So Jesus acknowledges that view where he's willing to be lowly in personality as he presents himself, which is something that I was studying with someone this week. We were reading James. I can't remember, it was James chapter number 1. And James says the rich man should see himself low as the average guy. And so, but the poor man should see himself exalted. And so we really obsessed about that. Why is it that he's harsh towards the rich man? Why is he harsh towards the rich man? And you would spot that there is a lot of the rich man that can divert him towards unbelief. And so the poor man is at a position at which he can receive. That's why he says to the poor was preached the gospel. So the poor have it at the baseline. Why am I pointing at all these things? Is that in all the places where we find ourselves, it is much easier for God to reach us with the best of how you are supposed to see him. With Nathanael, he's seen as a pure man in whom guile is not found. With other disciples, we don't know how Judas came. Probably Judas is one of those people, they just heard about it. Hey, they heard a testimony of some sort and they started to follow. But if you follow them, you will notice that it influences how they saw him. This is why when they are at the Last Supper, Thomas says, Father, show us the Father. If you listen to the answer that Jesus gives it shows you, with everything that I've been doing with you, I've been trying to influence your fear to God. And so, Pete, you are seeing me and you have not Thomas, basically. So when he says that, oh, my Lord and my God, that's when he says it. Do you see what I'm talking about here? Please tell me you can follow. Can you follow? Can you follow? Jesus' entire interaction with everybody that he convicted, he influenced how they saw him, either from a physical thingy or from a testimony or whatnot. He influenced how they saw him. When a person says things like, this guy, what have you seen about the Messiah? You claim to be born again. What did you see that you think God would beam sin? I ran out of words. I ran out of words. What do you think with all these guys that you see? All of them, they were put at a position where they were supposed to see God in a certain way. All of them. Even us. The reason why we have such reverence for God, it's how we see him. Like, that's why you can never influence someone towards worship. They either are worshipful or they are not. Why? Worship depends on how you see God. If you can't, you will never. Do you think all these atheists, all these people that just come out with all these atheistic things and they say, oh yeah, no, there's no Jesus, all these things are bumaponga. Do you think this person is? No, they have never seen. Like, I don't need to see Jesus in thing, but in what I have read, I have seen. You see, I can understand why he says, woe is me, for I am a man of unclean. You see, when the prophet saw that, from what I read about God, it influences what I think of him. And so our perspective of God is basically what we've been influenced. Let me not move too far from the comments. Ne? I don't want to move too far from the comments. Okay, so the last comment I saw was this one. False prophets at work. False prophet at work says, Mukupa says false prophets are at work. The book of Revelation is our God is a hey, Bazalan, you remember the testimonies that you see when you call the book of Revelation, you remind me of this. When he's calling out the churches, you guys have lost your first love. Is that there was a way you saw God. If you don't see properly, if you don't see him properly, you'll have the wrong perspective about everything. I don't blame people that think they can lose salvation. It's okay. I'm not going to argue with you. If you catch up in the next 50 years, good for you. I would rather catch up now. Why? Because through that process, when he goes through the process of the death and he rests on that cross as if he's doing nothing, and you think you must do something, it's because you think your position on God is that you don't see Jesus as God, like fully. You don't see him as God. Like when he says, kill this body and in 3 days I will raise it back up again. You are not seeing him, the one who raises the body. Yeah, you think you do that. Good luck with that. Good luck. See, my position on salvation, it's influenced by that man on the cross, not the one in the grave. It's not the grave, because in the grave you're still thinking, how is he gonna rise up? Even the disciples, they were in doubt. They were shocked. When he knocks at the door, fear strikes them, right? When he comes through the door, fear strikes them. One of them doesn't even believe he needs to touch the wounds. It's that the influence had not taken place. And after they saw him in that format, by the way, after they saw him resurrected, their conviction came more strong. Peter, who was doubting, was now willing to die on the cross the same way. In the book of Acts, it actually says, it is no doubt that this man had seen the Messiah, or they'd been with the Messiah. Why? It influenced how they behaved after. When you hear a person like this, do you think this person has been influenced by the gospel? Because sometimes we say, man of God. No, this is not a man of God. He's not a man of God. He's a baby at it. It's not an offense. When I say a person is a baby, I'm not talking about age. When I say a person is a baby, I mean you have not seen him. If you had seen him on that cross, I'm glad the message that brought me to salvation was the preaching of the woman who was known as in the city as a sinner. That was the message that was being preached 2009 April. I had gone to a conference. Right next to me, there was a church that was next to me. And this man was preaching. There was this woman. She was known as a sinner. And the man said, they still know your name. This woman, we are not told her name. We are just told she was a sinner. Aren't you glad that God does not see you in that way? He is still preserved you, that we still know your name. Not from your sin. And so from that view, I was made to see God from that particular perspective. Of course, later on you lose it, but you return to the right perspective. Is that how you see God? It's portrayed in every other thing that you teach. If you think giving money to a church will contribute to how God sees you, whether you are dedicated or not, you are far. You are far. You are not even close from far. You are still outside. Because you think your relationship is dependent on material things. You think a relationship that was not started from material things is dependent on it. So it's that the viewpoint. Remember the Laodicea. Is it Laodicea? The church that thought they were rich, they thought they had it all. Their view was tainted by materialism. He says, no, I wish that you would buy of me. If you know, sometimes I quote half verses. If you don't know the verse, you're like, what verse is that? I weep for you. He said, I wish you would buy from me. It's showing that the view that they had was tainted by what? By materialism. If you go back into the parables, when he is describing the parables of the sower, there is one that fell on the side. And the seed, is it the one with the seed? Yeah, the one with the seeds. It says the seeds of the thorns choked it. The thorns choked it. And it got concerned about things about life. It got concerned about earthly matters. So their view was influenced. Either way, what you are saying, it's influencing you other ways. And you are saying that God, who is trying to influence you towards holiness, beamed an image of pornography. My brother, repent. God, who wants to influence you towards holiness, he beamed an image of sin into your mind. You claim, I saw this through prophecy. My brother, you will answer for your words. I'm just a reminder. Because you see, how you see God is disgusting. How you see God. You see, now I'm beaming it back to God, the real God, not yours. Yours is vile. Your God is vile. Is wicked. You painted that picture. Because you say, when you say God, the rest of the world hears the one of the Bible. And so when you say God showed you this image, you painted that image in everybody else's mind. God will judge you for every single little idle word that you. We are waiting for your apology, my brother. Yes, if you want to send us, send it. We'll play it here. How dare you paint such an image of God? You might never blow. You might never become popular. Trying to be controversial. You might never become popular, but those words, trust me, you will account for those words. This prophecy is private and move on spirit. Remember, the Bible actually says he will convict them. When speaking about the Holy Spirit, he will convict them of their sin. But then to the unbeliever, what does he convict them of? Towards their righteousness. Towards righteousness. So where does this prophecy lead? It influences sin. It speaks of all the details. Its interests are in the. My brother, you'll answer one day. Don't worry. It says, God, in God's name, will show him definitely not the true God. Yeah, it's his God that showed him that. It's not the true God. It's not the God of the Bible. Pastor, when Paul, look at how important perspective of God is. When Paul receives revelation of what you're doing is wrong, as a matter of fact, it's holding back the message of God. He has to go blind. This is a man who had trusted in his flesh. He trusted that he was right in his flesh. God makes him blind for days, that he needed another person. Perspective is everything. Who are you, Lord? He asked while he's on the road to Damascus. Who are you? He says, I am Jesus, the one whom you are persecuting. I am Jesus. Jesus saw himself as the body. Continue. Continue. Because they like pushing age. When you call them out on error, pure error, straight out wrong error, the first thing they think about, I'm older than this boy. Who is this small boy? I remember this other prophet. I didn't talk about him. He was angry at me. This small boy. We think we are talking age here. You are late. You are late to the train, my brother. We are not talking age here. Here we are talking doctrine. You'll answer. Jenny says, Tamara, clearly we are not saved. His God is busy watching him, all these things on the bedroom. And yeah, like what kind of a God displays that? Imagine. You reminded me of Isaiah, says, Isaiah 53, leadership. Let me open it. Isaiah, if you can remember which part exactly. Okay. The comments will be a little bit down. 53, is it? 53. I hope I'll find it, ne? Is it woe is me? Who has believed our report? Okay. Who has believed our report? Okay, let me show the verse here. Leadership, please do remind me if you can remember what verse exactly you were referring to there. Oh, let me try and find it. Let me try and see if I can. Despise my sorrow. I think I know the verse that you're actually talking about. The transmission and the sheep is like, okay, he who oppresses, okay. Take not my judgment, no, not that part. And he made. I can remember some parts, but some no. He was bruised for us. Okay, yes. And for devices for a great end, for the spoil by the strength of leadership. Which particular verse exactly? Because this part here, okay, there's a verse that I was actually thinking is in 53, and he made a grave with the wicked, the rich man of the dead. Okay, because of the fact. Okay, wait. Because he had done no violence, and neither had there been deceit in his mouth. Okay. Leadership, can you remember the verse exactly? Why is this thing showing? Oh, it's showing the wrong. We are done with that charlatan. You better repent. My brother, you better repent. Your words will, you will be accountable to those words. Leadership, can you remember what verse exactly? Let me scroll down to see if he has noted the verse. Okay. I'll wait for you to notify me of the verse, leadership. We'll come back to it. But I do remember there's certain parts that I'm thinking of will derail me if I start talking about them. They'll derail me too far. All right, let me go back. I don't want to miss the comments here. We're going to go back to that part of perspective again. We're going to go back. Samantha says, caught Ricky live. Leadership, you must turn on notification. You must turn on notification, leadership. All right, Jesus is God. And yeah, that's the perspective they were getting. And so even when Peter is seeing, Lord, I am a man, I'm a sinful man. When he says that, it is God that he's saying, not a prophet. Okay? So he's convicted by, this is the God of creation. How can he call all this? And so, like the writer doesn't say, because the writer assumes you will start to think of it, developing. If you look at everybody that Jesus convicted, like for instance, the 10 people that were healed, they are healed, they go, one comes back, and he is made whole. So he saw something. When he comes back, he gets the full picture. The same way there was a guy who was healed, and in his sight, he sees people upside down. He needs that to be clarified. He's about proof that he's still the PT. Oh, yes. And so the image of how we see God is very much influenced by the things that you hear from them, okay? If they speak with end time, I'm coming just now, leadership. I think it says very powerful leadership. Danko. If you go back to any image, like, okay, another thing that people, end time.
Hello, bro.
Are you
good
good?
Evening. I'm in my village. You see, it's dark here.
Nah, you managed to get light in, so we are grateful to have you.
How are you now?
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, let's go back also to the point of Jonah. I want to also remind of Jonah. When Jonah is in the belly, his perspective is, you've pulled me out from the grave. He makes a reference almost as if he's speaking from the grave, from the belly of Sheol. Yes, you can say he's using poetry in order to illustrate the depths of being dead in the belly of the fish, but there is something that he's also seeing. He's seeing God right to judge in that position. So he sees God, you are right to make a judgment on where I should be and where I shouldn't be. That's why he's willing to comply after. But with Jonah, that's why you might have heard me saying, with Jonah, Jonah is one of my favorite in the Bible. The reason being, Jonah is a clear depiction of a lot of Christians. They can say yes, and say, God showed me this dream, God showed me that we're gonna go and minister the gospel. Then before you know it, when they get there, they face difficulties, they pull back. So how do you see that with Jonah? He is convicted that God is right, that he must go to a certain place. Fine. He goes there, he ministers, people convert. He doesn't want that. He doesn't like that. He's bitter because of that. So then how does he translate it? He is now in bitterness. The book ends with Jonah in bitterness, which is a classic of us, is that we can go and do what we are saying that God has told us to do. But then when we get there and we don't get the results that we want, we get bitter about it. He's a classic of all of us. And the book ends in the bitterness of Jonah. Now the question is this: who will you be? Will you be the Jonah version who wants the results that you want? Or will you be, we are out here leadership, where you post a video which you think this video is important, it must reach people. 2 people watch it. Do you get discouraged? And then you're like, guys, you're not watching the other videos. Is that the message becomes more important than the people. Why? Because the viewpoint that people have on God is displayed very, very wrong. The reason why the disciples were willing to die after seeing the Messiah is because it convicted them of how unimportant they were. Paul says, I count it all dung. Do you know what a reputation in Jewish culture was? For him to say he counts it all dung. This man was a Pharisee. You would work for 30 years in order to become that person within the society, within Jewish culture. The guy, all he needed in order for him to go and carry out people in another city was just a letter. Just imagine how much authority a letter with a person like Paul was like. Is that he had so much, and yet he counted nothing but dung. Why? Their perspective on God was very much influenced. Now, do you think this guy, leadership, did you see the video?
Yeah. In fact, I was going to do something about it. I saw it and I was like, what kind of prophecy is this one again? And it baffles me. I was heartbroken, because there are two ways to that nonsense. Yes. It's either that, that was stage managed, and that looking at the woman is a poor woman, so she can be bought. But the question is, what God would kind of give that kind of prophecy to scatter that home like that, and to ridicule the woman and make her useless in the face of all others? We know that God is a righteous God, and at the same time, he loves. He doesn't disgrace people like that. Yeah. So when he was saying that thing, and he was a prophet that can see beyond what any other man cannot see, I was like, what kind of nonsense is this? I'm becoming heartbroken, Ricky. I'm becoming heartbroken. What we are seeing in the church today, just like what you're saying, people being driven by results, results according to their own heart desire, what they want. There was that year that somebody, one of the most popular pastors here, is actually no longer popular here, but then he organized a crusade. He was very rich, very, very rich. And I guess there were these white people sponsoring the crusade. So in the crusade, I was actually a new convert. Then I was a young convert. So I was there the first day. It rained. So people didn't come much, but at least there were people that came out. We were all in the rain and everybody was happy. So the next day, I was early to go to the crusade. On getting there, I didn't see anybody. I waited. I was like, what is happening? I waited for like 1 hour, 2 hours. He didn't come. So I went home. I went to meet my pastor then. I was like, what happened? I went for the crusade. He said the man canceled the crusade. That the turnout he saw yesterday was not impressive enough. So he canceled it. You know what that means? There will be not enough money. So it will be wasting of money for him to continue with the crusade. And then you never thought that to To spend $1 billion to gain one soul is worth it. But now for
Yeah.
him, the result that he expected wasn't good enough, and so he cancelled it. So these are the nonsense we are saying. I actually saw the video. That was why I called in. I didn't know you've seen it. You know.
Yeah, so it's that point there. You see the point. That's why I wanted to drag it back to how people see God, or how our perspective on God. And it shows in all these other things that we are able to portray. Like, for instance, when the Bible talks about father, father will turn against son, son will turn against thingy in the last days, right?
Yeah.
He says something that's so crucial. He says, and the love of many will wax cold.
Wax cold. Exactly.
Is that the true picture? If the true picture of love, which is influenced by the cross, is the one that reigns, there is no way your love will wax cold.
Okay.
There's no way. It's not going to happen. If it happens that your heart grows cold towards either God because you were swindled money and you don't realize it was your greed that got you to be swindled money, and so it's that you saw the wrong thing. And it's a very difficult thing for a person to admit that they saw the wrong thing. You saw the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Even some of these guys, when they make their supposed prophecies and the prophecies falls on the ground, you saw the wrong thing. Wherever you saw it, whether you saw it in your imagination or whatnot, you cooked it in your brain, you saw the wrong thing. But they will move around it. Leadership, you can take the call and come back.
Okay.
Because they will continue to call. And so it's that our view on God, which is something that I am extremely passionate about. How do we see God? If that's what should come back to a person who backslides, what do you think comes back to the backslider? Think about another one, the prodigal son. You guys remember the prodigal son? The prodigal son, he's with his father. He does all these wicked things and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. By now, I'm sure you have now painted the picture to the end. The prodigal son has such an influence of his father. He is so influenced by how his father's image was. It cannot be tainted. It cannot be tampered with. He is so clear that his father is forgiving. He's so clear on that part. He's so clear that God is going to receive him. He's so clear that in my father's house there are many mansions. He's so clear on that. It influences his decision to go back. When you see the pride of man, is that they have not been broken to see the heart of God. And if a person is proud in their supposed title, God forbid, you will hardly see me in a suit. I don't know if suits puff up people. Hey, a lot of people are puffed up by suits. All these suits. Once they get into the suit and they start stretching, they start doing this. Provovo. Once Provovo does this, the pride is about to start. Imagine the spokesperson and the ambassador of the Laziness, and he refuses to take the free gift of salvation because you are insisting you must hear from the king himself. Yeah, the message comes straight, directly thinking. Okay, you get your thing to actually hear it. Today you are preaching. Also, message we are preaching now. Sam, what's up? Leadership. Tackle this man, a particular pastor once a prophecy about me, and 2 years later, and a random traditional healer gave me the similar. Leadership, they gave you a jup prophecy. Very temporal. Even the people in the dark world can see it. Some of these people, they are not seeing from God. Leadership, you need to tell me about that prophecy. It sounds good. That prophet needs to be confronted by his church. Yeah. Church elders, leadership. Do these churches even have elders? Most of these churches, the structure is the pastor. The pastor is all the structure that's there. No board, nothing. And if there's a board, it's someone who's rich in the church and gives a lot of money. Yeah, preaching today says change. Danko, Releboha. You're talking about the prophet. I am being regarded as proud because I refuse to obey the prophetic instruction. They're talking about our leadership. They are saying you are proud. Where? Is it in your church or what? Do leave another comment. We would like to hear about these instructions they gave you, leadership. Godwin, if you're still there, do update us there on that one. And I'm still waiting for Matthew. Matthew, that verse from Isaiah, don't forget me. Ne? Leadership, I think God, who we believe in, the creator of heaven and earth, but his own God. Yeah, his own God is the one that's responsible for that one. Leadership. Yeah. Yes. His God is the one that's showing him. We must give people the right to express their God. Sometimes, because everybody just assumes this is God. We are all talking about. No, people have their gods here. Okay. Let people express their God. Jesus says it's not biblical. Amen. Thank leadership. Says what? Yes, leadership. We are talking doctrine. Yeah, this thing of people get into their feelings. They start talking about age. No, I'm older than the boy. We didn't ask you. Give us the doctrinal position that you were submitting to your church members. They get so touchy. So I wanted to make a video update on it, but I was like, he's in his feelings, this one. Let's leave him. So I just left him like that. When it comes to God, you are old. Than who? Me, I'm telling you the source. You are older than who?
It might be as old as the Holy Spirit,
Remember, that was the reason for which, actually I've always read that part and I was like, did Harold die for this because of this or for this? Remember when Harold starts to become violent to thingy? It says that he just fell down and he died after killing the kids. So I wonder if his disobedience was the reason for him dying. But if we gave you doctrinal position, the right doctrinal position, do you not think God still holds that doctrinal position as important? Because remember, even Paul speaking to Timothy, he says, watch over your doctrine, for it will save you and those that hear you. So right now, as I'm here speaking like this, I must watch. And what I'm saying, I can pick up a Bible verse for you. Because there are people that are going to walk away here believing that. That's why I say the perspective that a person gets when they see the Bible, it's very, very important. Leadership, exactly. You want to accept it? Yeah. This actually goes back to something that you said, leadership. You just reminded me. The video that you made on Rika and Pastor okay. Rika and the wife.
Okay.
Where you were talking about what was that? Them talking about only the people that come from their church. Do you want to express that? Because I feel like it also fits into that narrative. Is that he sees the wrong image about God? You can explain that breakdown that you.
I've actually done up to 6 videos on Rika. There is one I want to do again, but the most the recent one is the one he said that the father told the son to come and rapture the church, and the son was like, there are not many people yet on earth that will come to heaven. Say, father said, just go and rapture them like that. So the son now said, there is something I want to try, my brother. Jesus wanting to try something, so which means he's not sure. So there is something he wants to try, that he wants to raise a group on earth, which is they will be called okay. If you can bring it up, maybe it's the right one. But this one I'm saying now, Jesus told the Father that, wait, let me try this wisdom. If it works, then I will let the earth continue. But if it doesn't work, I'll go and rapture them like that. Now, who are the people? Jesus now raised Holiness Revival Movement worldwide. And so Jesus is now happy that the thing has worked. So from that point of view, you ask yourself, the Lord that knoweth the end from the beginning is the one that tells the Father, wait, let me try something first. You see that?
He doesn't even know.
So Jesus doesn't know. He needed to try it out first and see how it works out. And then Pastor Rika now is the only preacher of holiness, and through him, in fact, he is the one that sustains holiness. And there was the other one. He said, if anything happens to him, if he dies, people will go to hell. Even those whose names are written in the book of life, they will lose their. Yeah, it's there in my channel. Now, but the annoying thing is that, people will still come up to defend this kind of error. Yeah. You see, some of them have promised me hellfire. That my apartment is there in hell already. So, but I'm thankful to God that they are not gatekeepers of hell. So it's not as if they have the key of eternal life. These are the things that we're talking about. He said recently that God has made him the father of Christianity worldwide. And that Jesus was telling him, that he is the one that will nurture holiness on earth. Now, he mentioned the church where he came out from, and the way he came out with bitterness. He didn't settle with his GS. He came out like that. So he said Jesus told him to shut up. We are talking about something else, and you are talking about deeper life. And the pastor of deeper life, WF Kumuyi, that man is over 80, and his ministry has lasted for more. That ministry is older than myself. So now Paul said, Jesus was asking him, is it because of scanty people that come out from there and go to heaven? We're talking about holiness. We're talking about this thing. I'm talking about you, greater holiness. So and everything is throwing around the person. You see, now a pastor to say if he dies, people will go to hell. It means that there is no hope for the church, because he will definitely. You and me now will go to hell, because if he dies, we will go to hell. If anything happens to him, we'll go to hell. The whole world will perish. Wow. So it is basically a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, no, that's such a thing. But it's all influence. It's that same thing. Is that these people have the wrong view. God is centered around them so much that they are now regulating. Like sometimes we read Matthew chapter number 7, where he says, first remove the plague that is in your
log,
and then you'll be able to see the one that is in your brother's eye. Viewpoint. You see, view how you are seeing things. Like if we were to say, like, for example, when you look at Hebrews chapter number 11, when he gives the record of the heroes of the faith, right? Yeah, they've done this, they've done this. Notice that in that entire record, there's no bad deed. But all those people, when you go and you read their story back then, there's all these things. Is that God, how God sees us? It's very important.
Yeah.
If we lose perspective on how God sees us, and that's why now I feel like the devil has now launched an attack on how people should see themselves. So he has sent all these mamigios and what. They just, this will lead you to hell. It leads you away from your discipleship aspect of life. You are just now obeying mamigio. It leads you away. You are no longer focused on bettering you becoming a better husband, you becoming a better father, a better workmate, and stuff like that. It's now that, hey, there's this that I mustn't touch, there's this that I mustn't. So right now, the launch is on how do we think God sees us. Now, you remember, I like something that someone actually once mentioned about John when he's writing the gospel, the synoptic gospel. He says that John refers to himself as the one whom Jesus loved. So he's talking about how God's view on him is. So I'm not going to wait for a pastor to tell me I am loved of God.
Yeah.
No. Amongst the disciples, no, God loved me. It's not like it's that he had such a pure view of God. And guess what? It wasn't Peter who declared, Jesus, me, I love you so much. He ran away, that one. It wasn't the other disciples who wanted to see revelation about Thomas and all these people. It wasn't them. It was John who was seen at the cross. The other men, they ran away.
Yeah.
It was John who saw the view that God had on him. That was there when the Messiah went through the cross. That's why the account that he writes, it's a little bit different there. You want to extend that part while I check out the comments a little bit, leadership?
Yeah. It reminds me of what a pastor, in fact, W.F. Kumuyi said. When we relate with God, because what we're seeing, all this charlatanism that people are displaying today is because they don't love God enough. If they actually love God, if we love God enough, the truth is that most of the things that we are doing, we will not be doing them. And it is difficult. It's more difficult to serve God because of the fear of going to hell. Hey, I don't want to go to hellfire. I don't want to go to hellfire. It is more difficult. Though that should be at the back of our mind, that when we deviate and we don't, stand for God in the right way, there is a repercussion. But I should relate with God, loving God, having the love of God in my heart. If I love you, I wouldn't want to hurt you. I wouldn't want to do things that you don't want me to do. If there is a name people are calling you that you don't like, if I love you, I wouldn't want to call you that name. So the people who are introducing, so to speak, God to us, so to speak, they don't love God enough. They are lovers of selves. If you love God enough, in fact, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, it would have, been relegated to the background. Because I believe that Apostle Paul said, I think in Hebrews chapter 6, that it is no longer time to lay again the basic foundations of touch not, handle not, do not. It is supposed to be a time of moving from, the foundation level, laying the foundation, to building the main house. You see? So, but these people, because they don't, love God enough, they present themselves to the people that are following them, and then the people begin to see God through them. And that brings us back to the African traditional religion. You know that, in those days we were growing up, every family has a God. I don't know how it is in South Africa, but there are sometimes, if you come into a family of 7 males, there might be 7 gods, because every male must have his own God. So they believe that is the small God that can help them talk to the big God. That's why in my language we have Chuku. Chuku means the big God, that's the Almighty God. And they will not have small she, that is the small gods. So the people believe that you talk to the small she, and the small she will now speak to the Chuku, the big God up there. Now that is what many of these people are bringing back. Albeit they may not even know that is what they are doing, because they have made a lot of their followers believe in them more than believing in God. That is why, if somebody is having headache in the middle of the night, he wouldn't have the confidence that I can talk to God right here and this thing will be over. He begins to call Papa. Papa, something is happening, because she never believes that God can answer her own prayers. He never believes that God can answer his own prayers. Whereas, in the eyes of God, even though that this person has been privileged to be in the position of leadership, but It is the same grace that saved us. It is the same Jesus, the same blood that was shed for me, that was also shed for the pastor. Now, I do tell people that when God will reward people, He will not reward Ricky because Ricky was the GS, and now reward me because I was a toilet cleaner in the church. No, God gives grace according to the responsibility that He gives to everybody. If He has seen you that you have the capacity to be a GS, now He calls you and mandates you with that assignment. Now He will reward you according to your faithfulness, how you used the grace that He has given to you in that office. It's like when somebody comes and say, Ricky, I want to build a 5-star hotel. He must equip you enough and give you enough money that will finish that house. And he comes to me and said, hey, I want to build a duplex. Now, you know that the cost of duplex and the cost of a 5-star hotel will never be the same, but what the man is looking for is, the result, how it was finished. I will be rewarded because I was faithful enough to use the little resources that could build the duplex and finish the duplex. And you will be rewarded because you are also faithful enough to use the gigantic amount of money that was given to you to build a 5-star hotel. Now, the reward here will be how faithful have you been in managing what God gave to you, not the magnificent size of the office. It is not. It's going to be according to how much we serve God, how faithful are we. So that one is a general overseer, and then he has workers under him. On the day of reckoning, people will be surprised that some general overseer would have been saved just by force. Let it just be that he made it. But the reward is actually going to be according to how faithful we are. So people should actually understand that, yes, when one is a pastor or a prophet, some of them are calling themselves today, but if God really calls somebody a prophet, He gives the person the grace to manage that office. But that doesn't make that person superhuman. That makes the person who he is in Christ Jesus. Only that he is privileged to manage that office. There are some YouTubers that are having over 2 million subscribers, and you are still trying to get to 100. Now, in the sight of God, you are not less. Now, those people have 2 million. You are not less. But now, how faithful and sincere you are in doing what you're doing is what God is looking at. Some people may have gotten 5 million, till they die, they may get to the 10 million. But you may not get to 1 million, but that is not what God is looking at. What God is looking at is, how did you use even the little one that you were given, or the big one that you were given? I think this is what people understand.
Yeah, that's basically 1 Corinthians chapter number 3 right there. And so it's to be faithful unto what you are. Yeah, I think it says like the woman who was caught in the act of adultery and was brought to Jesus. She was forgiven and ridiculed in the public. And so this is the site of what Jesus then goes through. He faces this ridicule from man and the judgment from man's perspective. So all out, I've always illustrated that to say, if I did someone wrong, a particular brother, particular sister, you see, my wrong was covered by that act that they put Jesus through. Those people, when they beat him, they did what, all those things that they did to him, it covered that aspect of my wrong. But then my wrong towards God was covered when he sat on the cross. Okay. Now notice that the wrongs which I had with men, Jesus covers it while still alive, and also the sin of man, he does that also while still alive. Let's be very clear also here. That's why I said your forgiveness came when he was still on the cross. It doesn't come when he died. No, that's not how the Bible renders it. It's that process of the death accomplishes. The death does something else. That's a different subject. We'll talk about that later on. When Jesus was on the cross, like he says, it is finished. What's finished? Tetelestai. When he says tetelestai, it is finished, is that the reconciliation work between you and God was done when he was still alive. Yeah, you see that one? That's meat area there. That's meat area. We'll talk about that on a later on. I think we'll do a study of the last week of the Messiah. But that's very important. Jesus rendered our forgiveness when he was still alive. Why? Remember, when he is a high priest, you, as a high priest, you service, you do the service. So Jesus had to render the service. He brought his sacrifice. His sacrifice wasn't delivered by someone. No, he brought it. So when he says kill the body, they killed the body, but they didn't render the sacrifice. The Romans are not capable of doing that. It's only him. That's why when he receives the baptism from John the Baptist, John's service ends because the transfer of priesthood takes place, and now he is priest. So when Jesus is on there, he is literally the sacrifice and the high priest. That's never been. Which is why we say Roman Catholicism is wrong, because the priest claims he is converting the bread and the thing to literally thing. You can't do that. No, hey, it's witchcraft. You are performing witchcraft, because that's where Jesus stood. Jesus was the sacrifice and the high priest. So when Hebrews says we are not served by a high priest who does not know of the difficulties of our infirmities, he is literally talking about that process of him going through the body, being in the body, and serving as a sacrifice, which is supposed to be innocent, by the way, and also being the high priest that renders the sacrifice over to God. So now look at how he interacts with the viewpoint of man. When Mary comes, she's the first one to arrive, right? When she arrives, she tries to touch Jesus. Jesus says, "Do not touch me, for I am not yet been to my Father." Heaven needs to see. So the death, guys, the death is not where the forgiveness happens. The forgiveness happens when he's on the cross. So what is he going to see his Father about? Oh, that's next week's subject. We got to deal with that one. Because he cannot have Mary interact with him in her flesh. This is divinity. He's still in service, in high service of divinity. So it's as if he continued from the point when he died on the cross. He still continued that service. But what he's continuing, it's not the forgiveness. No, when he said it is finished, the forgiveness was done. So what was he doing between that process of going to the grave for 3 days and then coming back and saying no interaction with the flesh until I've seen my Father? What's that? We'll talk about that next week. We gotta go there. We gotta talk about that process, because those are now areas of, that's where the meat aspect of our reconciliation is. Yeah, okay. You see, when you're talking about the milk is that Jesus died, he forgave us, hallelujah, we are saved. It just ends there. But what's that service like? What does it look like? Why is he presented with a robe of a king as a prophecy? Because remember, he's still doing the service, right? He's still doing the service.
Yeah.
Nah, let's not go there. We'll go there next week. Let me update with the comments here.
Right.
Let's read with some of the comments. So we'll come back to that. Let's not obsess over it. But please do go back and read that part. Because on the next part now, we got to talk about the service aspect. Today, I wanted to tackle this part here because I thought it goes with that. How we see God, it informs how my relationship. It informs my prayer. It informs that I don't need to go to a mountain to pray. It informs what I believe about John chapter number 4, when he says, you will not worship God neither in the mountain, neither in Jerusalem. It informs that idea. It extends it, as a matter of fact. Okay, Mr. Melebas, thank you very much. So that aspect of the service that Jesus goes through there, I've had very few messages about that. I've had very few messages. And so we are going to be fasting this week. You will choose a day of your choosing, any day of your choosing. Next week, please, you must call in next week. So we can talk about that process. When Jesus dies on the cross, or from the time when he starts serving on the cross. That's the part we are really interested in. Okay. And
all right.
It's going to get interesting, leadership.
Well done, my brother. Well done. May the Lord continue giving us grace. You know,
thank you.
It is what it is. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming through, leader.
God bless you, dear.
Thank you.
Bye.
So those videos that we were talking about, that he spoke about, I think they actually extend that subject of how the man is so obsessed with his own message that he feels anybody that's outside of his church should be thinking. I will be doing another video, particularly on that point that he actually mentioned. I think I'll go back and look back at it. The one where he says, the man said, please enter and please do send me that video, the link of it, so that I can know which video to reference. Awesome stuff. The video where you said he mentioned that if when he dies, nobody will go, what kind of garbage material is that? So next week, we're going to get into that particular point. We're going to get back into that point, particularly the point when he's at service on the cross. There's something there. La fast anchor. Just choose one day. Choose one day while we are studying that one. Eh? Yeah. We are meet people. If this is your first live stream, we are meet people. We obsess about the things that people don't want to obsess about. There's something that happens. The communication that Jesus renders during that period. He asks for a drink, you go on, and then tetelestai, it is finished. What's finished? The work. Remember, he says it is delivered of me to think of this volume. He's reading from Isaiah, he's quoting from Isaiah. So what is the volume? To do thy will, O God, as he might put it back there. So what's that will? You go back into John chapter number 6. He says the will is that people, as we may believe. And so the will of God for Jesus is for him to come and render that relationship. So as high priest, his duty was to come be both. Think about that. Jesus had to be both. He had to be both the offering and the high priest that offers. Yet knowing how it is like to be the one who's being forgiven, according to Hebrews. We are not thinking by the high priest that is not aware of our infirmities. And so you see that. Thing says, God says, good point, the traditional of things. Oh yes, he's talking about the thing that End Time TV was actually talking about there. There I saw one Enrique's video was shocking. Yeah, hey, that one. Leadership, those one. The videos from today, they were some very shocking stuff there. Yes, the Father forgives them before he gave the yes. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Think about that. The forgiveness took place while Jesus was alive. It's not the death. The death renders something else. The death is something else. Separate that one. He does it while he's alive. And then there is another service that he does after. Because remember, there is the destruction of the temple of heaven as it's known after. He says, heaven and earth shall pass away. So, what was Jesus' service? That he needed to go see the Father. You see what's going on? Now you know why. The New Jerusalem doesn't come from here. The New Jerusalem comes from there. Because he came delivered back up to the top. Thank you, leadership. Thank you very much. It goes a long way. Thank you. So that's what we're gonna really go into that particular point. But let us at least take one day and study for that particular one. We're just studying those last verses. And you can study from whatever commentaries you have. We'll come here, we'll bring it together. It'll be amazing. It'll be an entire life story. Okay, an entire Bible study. I'm not going to be long now. I just want to read the comments and then I think we can go back to our families. My bad for being late today. I apologize. Looking forward to next week. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely interesting. I'm going to the mountains for that one. Leadership, call me there. We go. Did you see those prayers that those guys were praying? We're going to render those prayers for that one. Because it goes much more. And the same way we are talking about our view on God, it influences what we think of our salvation. So please, we are taking one day off. I don't know, you can take any day. Me, I'll probably tell you on the video to say it's tomorrow or it's the next day. Then we'll try and do it either. Those that are doing it with me, they'll do it with me. It's all right. Let me read the last comment before I take your call, Malak. So leadership, I'm with you there. Next week, one day, and definitely thing is mountain. Yeah, we are going mountaining. We are Tamara is all laughter from here. The sacrifice of the high priest. I'm gonna have to call Brother Kumbero also to prepare his. I have like the. Oh man. Okay, Dube has just started it there. You go back into Father and Son. Jesus Christ. Dube, don't start us. Not yet, leadership. Don't ban us. We still have an entire week to go. So, Abraham, you have Father and Son. And then in Jesus, both Father and Son represented in one. Oh man, you just brought it up. My goodness. Leadership, don't kill us. Leadership.
Yes, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
How are you?
Number one.
Is my mic okay?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Okay. No, actually, I just logged in now from work. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. Yeah, so I didn't follow practice. I just clicked the link and here I am.
Yeah, I know it's wonderful to have you, leadership. We are talking about our next week's Bible study for the service of Christ while he's on the cross, all the way towards when he goes back to heaven. That's what we are just wrapping up on, to say that influences how we see our relationship with God. And so that's why you heard me there reading that particular comment to say, Dube's comment here, it's really, hey, leadership, this one, you've really started it now, to say Abraham and son, Jesus, both being God, remember, both in divinity and thinking. So saving it up into two. So those are the kind of things that we want to look into next week. Are you at work, leadership?
Yes. Currently on night shift, yeah. But I got some. Yeah. No, then we'll. it's a good thing to start from the beginning, you know, when we know how it all started and up to the end, you know, that's really where we get um, understanding of who God is and how He dealt with our forefathers in the new dispensation of grace that we are in right now. You know,
Yeah.
it's the whole adding the two together will make us understand the attributes of God, and that will help us in our Christian walk. And I believe it's really a good thing that you're initiating the leadership.
Thank you, leadership. So I hope to see you next week. So after you've read something, do come and divulge some revelation also, leadership.
No problem, sir. Thank you. Great one.
Thank you. Let the bosses be joyful that they have the best man on the job there.
Definitely. Thank you, leadership.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Kya Leboga. Thank you, Kya Leboga. They have the best man on the job. They have the best man on the job. So yeah, hey, today nailed it there. It's gonna be hectic. It's gonna be hectic. Daughter. So next week, as well as is next week, will be heavy. We'll be there. Donkeys. Please don't, you must call also, guys, next week. Leadership, please don't be late. My apologies. Wash your hands. Don't worry, leadership. I won't be late next week. Today it wasn't thinking. There was just a little bit too much stuff here. So I think I still need to figure out this StreamYard problem that keeps cutting me off and stuff. So please do remember, one day Nyana fast during the week, we are studying those particular verses that we spoke about. And I will see you on next week's live stream. We might have a sub-subject, but now you know. I saw a particular comment from Thingy. I'm just remembering now when I scroll back. I mean says I was once prophesied that I will release an album. I will release an album while my friend and I went with this church was one who sings. Leadership, you have not released the these prophecies, I'm telling you, they will dazzle you. They will throw you into next week and next year. Before you know it, you are absolutely confused. I saw another particular comment. Again, Hein, thank you very much, leadership. And also the last particular other comment, no fasting for me, leadership. Understandable. The study is enough, leadership. The study is enough. So guys, thank you very much. Sorry for being late today, but I will see you on next week's live stream. Y'all be blessed. I'm sure that my friend was jealous. Yeah, he was the one who was singing there. He's not being prophesied for the one who's gonna release an album. So hey, you know, Voprovovo, there's something else. So next week, I'll see you guys next week, and let us continue on in pursuing God. Because pursuing man is a very difficult thing. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.